Welcome back for part 9 of B.R.A.T, Basic Registered Adult Training for Spiral Scouts International for leaders and volunteers. We're going to go into financial stuff. I'm not a money person. If you have further questions on this, definitely reach out to HQ. Let's talk about our fundraising guidelines. What is the purpose of our money? And what is our goals? Projects with specific goals generally work better than general goals. Is this something that the Scouts can do safely and effectively? Spiral Scouts strongly encourages charters to avoid selling door to door. At the same time, we want to encourage the Scouts to be self-reliant and help pay their own way by helping with projects to earn money that cover the expenses of the program. I'm not saying that they're prohibited. I mean, all fundraisers are approved by Spiral Scouts International. There's a form for that. There's an end of fundraising form as well. Just because you want to do door-to-door sales doesn't mean it's automatically going to be a no-go. So, local impact. Will this project interfere with a local business or the livelihood of local people? And does the timing of this project interfere with other local fundraising drives? You probably don't want to do the fundraising at the same time that you know that your local gigantic Boy Scout troop or Girl Scout troop is selling cookies or popcorn. And we don't want to hurt our local communities because we want our local communities to support our charters, right? Taking these things into consideration, local factors, helps with your public image and allows you to get your community on board with what you're doing. We do have some prohibited types of fundraising that might be construed as gambling or pyramid schemes. None of that is permitted. So lotteries, bingos, games of chance, other fundraising that could be considered gambling. There's also a lot of states that have legal laws against these things, and so we're trying to stay on the legal side of all that. And finally, does it reflect well on the Spiral Scouts International image? The items sold should be of good quality and should be offered at a fair market value. The project as a whole should be evaluated for its appropriateness against the Raindrop Vow, Firefly Promise, Spiral Scout Oath, and the Pathfinder Pledge. Preparing for a fundraiser. These policies have to be observed for fundraisers. First, you have to submit a fundraising approval form and receive approval before the fundraiser may begin. All of these forms can be found in the teams under the general channel. There's a whole bunch of links up above there, including like a +6 that has even more forms. 10% of the funds raised are to be submitted to HQ, along with a fundraising project report. Your tribal council, if you have one, will set rules for how much of your fundraising should be sent to the tribe. If you research any other scouting organization, this is very reasonable. Contracts. If you must sign a contract for this project, the contract shall not appear to bind Spiral Scouts International or your tribe and should not hold any of these entities responsible for your fundraising project. If you have any questions about that, direct them to the CEO, the VP, and Spiral Scouts HQ, which is hq@spiralscouts.org. And if you're a proto-charter, if you're not chartered yet but want to do a fundraiser to earn the charter fees, you should be particularly cautious about the accountability aspects of fundraising. You can submit your form, but we may require additional documentation. I cannot tell you what that is. That is just what was on this slide, and I chose to read that because I wanted to make sure you were aware of that possibility. If you need that form, reach out to HQ. During a fundraiser, remind your Scouts of general safety rules. If your Scouts want to go to their neighbors' houses, they should never be alone. There should always be an adult in view, and never go into a person's home without adult permission. Walk on sidewalks and driveways rather than through yards, and watch for traffic. Don't carry large amounts of cash. The Scouts should be reminded on a behavior level to be polite and courteous, and to follow the spirit of the Raindrop Vow, the Firefly Promise, the Spiral Scout Oath, and the Pathfinder Pledge. Uniforms are intended for during scouting activities and should be worn for all official fundraising projects. If you're not using like a formal uniform, have a shirt. Have an informal uniform. Let's talk a little bit about sponsors. A sponsor support of a charter can include any of the following: supplies and meeting materials, a site, a support committee, financial support, continuing leadership, fundraising assistance, providing or assisting with specific projects. A sponsor could be a business, a service club, a community charter, a church who offers a benefit to the Spiral Scouts charter. This also increases your visibility in the community, making community activities easier and more rewarding. Such sponsored charters enjoy wider support and interest from the community at large. In return, the sponsor partner also benefits in many ways as well. By hosting the Spiral Scout Charter bake sale or a car wash, they attract traffic or potential customers. This is a symbiotic relationship. You are helping them and they're helping you. They may have things that they can donate, which gives them a tax deduction. They may have sources or contacts that can provide items. As I mentioned, financial support. They may be able to offer potential registered volunteers or leaders for a charter to ensure its continuity. This could help if a leader suddenly has to move and the circle needs a quick replacement. We have some charters that are circled. This can be a very beneficial arrangement if you can find a sponsor. They can help with fundraising. And if you're talking as a tribal coordinator or tribal council, you can also have sponsors for that too. The charter sponsor should be compatible with the purpose and philosophy of Spiral Scouts International as well as your group. Meeting sites must be open to all people who will be attending a circle meeting and should be safe and accessible to people with disabilities. The agreement between a charter and a sponsor is an agreement of good faith between both parties and is not considered to be a binding legal contract. It should specify what the charter expects from the sponsor and what the sponsor expects from the charter in plain language. I suggest having a written document so that if you have any sort of dispute, there is a good place to start with mediation from, and that both of you have a copy of that. We very highly encourage recognizing sponsors. They are the lifeblood of many successful organizations, and without their generosity, our charters and programs would not always succeed. Our sponsors need to be recognized publicly as well as within the organization. And with this in mind, we suggest the following sponsor recognition ideas. Certificate of recognition to be presented to the sponsor in ceremony of thanks. Regular recognition of the sponsor on charter tribe media, including websites, advertising, flyers, etc. via logo. Charter sponsor award plaque after 1 year of sponsorship. Mention of assistance or donation in a project-specific media. Verbal recognition and thank you at a project or event. And a card of thanks from the charter or tribe. We hope that these guidelines help clarify the roles of sponsors for the charter and help develop the necessary resources for the charter. And here's our fundraising wrap-up. Leaders and charter committee will be held accountable for all funds. Bills must be paid on time, preferably with a check from the charter's bank accounts, or keeping receipts. I know a lot of people don't use checks anymore. Reporting. A final fundraising report should be sent to Spiral Scouts HQ at the completion of the project. This has to include the amount sold, expenses, distribution of profits, evaluation of the fundraiser, etc. All of this is available on the team's Spiral Scouts International team under the general channel. And with that, in our next video, we are going to cover public relations. I will see you in the next video.